are going to call this meeting to order. It is 2:31 p.m. on Thursday, September 13th. This is the September meeting of the AMATS Technical Advisory Committee. As always, I'm going to start with roll call. Mr. Rebecca?
Here.
Mr. Carr is not with us yet. Ms. Morton?
Here.
Ms. Reeder?
Here.
Ms. Epstein is not with us. Ms. Howe? Here. We have Mr. Post sitting in for Ms. Witt.
Yes.
Ms. Carmel is here. Dave Post. Mr. Wilbur?
Here.
Mr. Hampton?
Here.
Mr. Morris?
Here.
We do have quorum. All right. And as always, our AMATS meetings we encourage public involvement. We start with the staff presentation, and then it opens up for committee comments, and then from there, the public is always welcome to comment after that. And just a reminder for everybody, please state your name for the record if you have any comments. Thank you. All right, next order of business, the approval of the agenda.
So moved.
Second. All right, moved by Mr. Wood, seconded by Ms. Hall. Do I have any opposed? Hearing none, the agenda is approved as is. Moving right along, we have a number of minutes to go through this time. Starting with May 12th, 2011.
Madam Chair, I move the May 12th, 2011 minutes. It looks like just you and I were the only ones that were present, at least here today for these minutes. I move that they be accepted.
You know.
No, I'm just making a point.
Oh, that's fine.
Do I have a second?
Anybody second?
Second.
Moved by Mr. Weber, seconded by Mr. Hanson. Are there any opposed to approving the May 12th?
Madam Chair, I have one edit.
Okay.
Good. Page 6. Page 6, second paragraph, it says acquisition B. I think it should be option B. There was no acquisition in that one, so. They were talking about options and concepts in the same. This is regarding the concept study or concept report. So anyway, I just recommend that.
All right, would require acquisition, so.
I think they meant option B, not acquisition B.
Okay. Any other edits? Sure. Any opposed to approving the minutes with the edits? Hearing none. May 12th minutes are approved with the edits. On to July 20th, 2011.
Move to approve? Second.
Moved by Mr. Wilbur, seconded by Mr. Hanson. Do we have any edits on this?
I have one edit.
Okay.
Yeah, the representative of the port who was at that meeting was Emily Cotter, with the C.
Let's see.
With a C.
So that change will be made throughout. Any other comments or edits? Any opposed to approving the minutes of those edits? Hearing none. July 20th minutes are approved with those edits. On to August 23rd, 2011. Move to approve.
Second.
Moved by Ms. Howe, seconded by Mr. Wilbur. Do you have any edits on this? Hearing none, I'd like to do something. Are there any opposed to approving the minutes? Hearing none, August 23rd minutes are approved. 2011, I should say. And now we jump to July 12th, 2012.
Move to approve. Second.
Moved by Mr. Morris, seconded by Mr. Hanson. Are there any opposed to approval of these minutes? Hearing none. seconded by Mr. Morris. Are there any opposed to the approval of these minutes? Hearing none, they are signed. Thank you very much for that. I know we're getting closer, we're almost caught up, and I'm glad we had last month, because there were a number of items that needed to be addressed. So, next we are on to business items. And the first item up is the Transportation Improvement Program Major Amendment Number 4. Mark, is that you?
Bart Rudolph with DOT. You have a copy of the amendment tables, the tip amendment tables, and then a memo that goes with it that kind of outlines what's been changed since the last amendment. Two reasons for this amendment. One being that under MAP 21, we suspect that funding to AMATS will be reduced. Currently, we were planning for about $36 million a year. Looks like it's going to be more like $25 million a year, so we needed to clean up 13, bring that number down to closer to $25 million. And then also, we need to add in the year 2014. This is largely because to fund Dowling Road in 13, we'll need to borrow money from 14. So to not delay that construction, we need to add in 14. Ideally, we would do a new tip. We would do a 2014 to 2017 tip. But the timeline for that isn't going to work and get it done in time. So what we propose is to add 2014 in now, and then start the development of a new tip starting in year 2015, a 4-year tip then. And that schedule will need to get underway towards the end of this year in order to make that deadline, because it's about a year, 15-month process before we'll come out with a draft tip once we start the development of a new tip. So what we propose now is to add in 14, add in the funding under MAP 21. And I can go through these changes with you table by table really quickly. On the first table, you see that's where all of our funding is. We don't have an answer as to how much CMAQ funding we'll be getting under MAP 21. The state is getting more than it used to. There's also more flexibility and more can be sent to other programs. So we don't have an answer on that yet now, so what we've done is just carried over what we've had in the past couple of years.
And it should be noted, however, that match is required now for CMAQ. There won't be any, under the previous one, that was continued resolution, the non-match requirement was there, now it's been removed. So any local match, the one used to block it, provided. So it's not easy to do.
I think I was in a webinar this morning with FHWA on CMAQ, and the list of, there are still many programs in CMAQ that do not require a match, including the van pool program as an example. And I think traffic signals, I don't think that still requires a match. But Cindy's right, there are many programs that were previously CMAQ funded that do require 20% match now. So I think we're going to have to iron that out before we finally approve which does and does not include the 20% match, because MAP 21 does change the rules.
And there's this big emphasis on PM 2.5 reductions. So the state might need more CMAQ, but they may need, you know, what the guidance comes out and what the state decides to do, there may be more of that extra money that's coming in going to the non-10 area PM 2.5. So that was the other biggie that,
That's a good point. So halfway down the first table, you can see we're about $24,024,955,000. On table 2, this table still needs to be updated. We need to add in the 2014 totals and clean up some of the project numbers in 2013. So what we propose is, while this is out for public review and comment, DOT updates these tables as well. They're not part of the fiscally constrained portion of the tip, and we did them from our safety program. So on page 3, our road improvements table, you can see in what we did, we cleaned up 2012 to what we actually planned to obligate, or what we did obligate. And then that left us room in 2013 to know how much money we would play with there, because the majority of the program is going towards Eagle River Road rehab. We needed to AC a little over $13 million from 13 into this current year to obligate all of that funding. So that didn't leave us with a lot of extra money. $4.7 million in the pavement replacement program, that is to fully fund the construction phase of A Street resurfacing. We started the design phase a couple of years ago, so the 4.7 will allow us to construct that. And then we had a little bit of a balance left over, $1.2 million we put in for 13 for Dowling. We'll AC the rest from 14, I'll talk about that in a second. And then there are two projects on the second page of Table 3, the Driftwood Bay Drive study and the freight mobility study. Those projects were supposed to be obligated this year. The Muni didn't have match for them this year, so we moved them out to next year, and if they can have match, then we'll obligate them in 2013. So that's basically the 2013 program. It's already AC'd into Eagle River Road and a little bit for the pavement replacement program. In 2014, we have $1 million in the O'Malley Road reconstruction. That's for right-of-way acquisition. We plan to AC that into 2013. Another reason why we needed the 2014 year in there. And then a large amount for Dowling, a little over $18 million to AC into 2013. Now, that $18 million in 2014 and the 1.2 in 2013 still doesn't get us quite to how much Dowling is going to cost. We are looking at some other options to come up with funding, some de-obligations, some unspent GF funds. But the goal is, if we can have that ready to obligate as soon as possible, which is why we need to start this amendment now, we wouldn't delay any construction, and hopefully that other funding would come into place. But I didn't want to give a false sense that these two numbers here total the whole construction phase, because they don't. We're still about $7.5 million short.
That's on Dowling, Bert?
That's on Dowling. Then there are no other major, and the only other thing is the safety improvement program, which we split between the Muni and DOT for traffic counts. And that's all of 2014 for roadway improvements. If you go to Table 4, that's our transportation enhancements program. I made a couple of changes here. In the current TIP in 2013, we had $500,000 for the area-wide trails plan, the bike plan, and the pedestrian plan. What I did was spread those out over 3 years so that each one gets a $1 million hit over the next 3 years. We've had quite a bit of trouble obligating these $100,000 projects that were in the 2011 TIP, just not enough money for a federal program, and we keep having to add more money. So rather than have 3 $500,000 projects, maybe we have $3 million projects spread over 3 years, and then we can do something a little more significant and a little less burdensome with the federal process. So I think what we would propose is that DOT and the municipality get together and come up with an idea of what might be best for that monies, and put together a program so we can obligate something next year. And by doing this, we also maintain our targets for transportation enhancements, the 10 to 15% of the total allocation. So we don't lose anything there. We're still within our targets because of our amount went down. On Table 5, when I put this out, I added 2014 in, just carrying what was in the current TIP in the outer years of 2014. And then I sent it to Lance to look at, to make sure, and I know he's going to have some changes, so I'll let him go over some of those, but for the reasoning of getting out for public comment, I just kept what was already in there. Those amounts just added into 2014. On Table 6, there weren't really any other changes. I just matched what was in our current statewide transportation improvement program for what's in 2014. And that was 5th and 6th repaving, has some money in there that year. It's not part of the AMATS allocation. Table 7, under transit, I did the same thing. I just added the amounts that were currently in the TIP in the outer years in 2014, made them real, matched up with what we've currently been funding those programs at. Table 8, Again, just matched it up quickly with the statewide transportation improvement program. Those numbers that you see in 2014 are exactly what's in the STIP for those projects. There are some questions about the Port of Anchorage. At the top, we need to get with the port and maybe clean up those numbers. Those numbers have been in there ever since I started, and I don't think I've ever checked in to make sure that that's actually what's happening, so. we can get
Whenever you
together
want,
and do
Bart.
that. Yep.
Whenever you want.
And then,
I agree.
what's that?
I agree.
Okay. Table 9 on the NHS and non-EHS table, just matched it up with the statewide transportation improvement project again, program again. And then there's no changes to table 10. So if you have any more questions, I can answer those now.
I just have a process question. Table 4, transportation enhancements. Is it by coincidence that they're all bike paths and trails and that kind of thing? Or is transportation enhancements code for green belts, bike paths, and trails?
Yes, that's it.
That's it?
Both.
Okay.
Landscaping, bike paths, trails,
All right.
sidewalks.
Okay.
that kind
All
of
right.
thing.
It's enhancing the look of things.
So yes, Ms. Lawrence.
I had a question also on table 4. So it looks like the Anchorage Trail that we have is deferred out beyond 2014.
Yeah, to do the $1 million a year, one of them had to go outside. Since I figured that plan was being developed now, by the time it's approved and everything, that would be the last one to actually get a project going. We can change those numbers around and add it up sooner or later, just as long as we don't go over $1 million a year. And rather than trying to split 2 or 3 projects between that $1 million.
Any other questions?
I have one just to clear. So Bart, what do you need from us today?
I need you guys to release this for public review and comment 30 days. And then after that, it would come back to this committee before we send it to the Assembly and Planning and Zoning. And so during that time, we'd like time to clean up table 2 and a couple of other changes that I mentioned.
Would you want to clean up our table 8 stuff during the
Yeah,
same period of
during
time?
the same period of time, yeah.
Bart, when is Gowan likely to obligate in 2013? Is that an early 2013 obligation?
As far as I know, yeah, it's around March, April, somewhere there. Maybe May.
Any other questions from the committee? No, we're on the public comment. Please state your name for the record.
Yeah, I'm Todd Logan, and I guess I have a question looking at Table 4, transportation enhancements. I understand that we're working out the smaller pot of money for 13 and beyond, or at least we assume we are, but I do note that the proportion of total funds allocated to transportation enhancement appears, if I understand this right, was 12% in 11, 18% in 12, is projected at only 4% of the funds in 13 and 14. Is that discretionary, or is that a choice of this committee, or how does that work?
That's a good question. The policy of AMATS is to spend 10 to 15% over the 4-year life of the TIP. So we average 2011 to 2014 and get 10 to 15% of the total AMATS allocation over the 4 years. So some years we spend more, some years we spend less, but between the whole TIP is that 10 to 15%.
And so the fact that the average you show here squeaks in 10% at 4-year average is how you rationalize this lower allocation for 13 and 14?
It meets the policies and procedures of AMATS, yeah.
Okay.
At 10%.
That's helpful, thank you.
Any other questions or comments from the public? Hearing none, it's back with us.
So Stephanie, how do you want to do it? You want to do the whole thing or by table? How would you preference? The whole tip or each table?
Unless you want specific.
I have some changes on table 5.
Do we want to go through table by table?
Okay, well, but unless he has, then he's got some, I guess I can table my
No, we can, I can put a motion on, I'm just having a discussion. I can put a motion on the floor, get a second, and then amend the motion just to deal with table 5. Does that work?
Yes.
I'll move that we release 2010, it should be a 2010 to 14, Mark?
2011.
2011 to 14.
2011 to
Yeah.
2014 TIP amendment for 30-day public review.
Second.
Moved by Mr. Wheeler, seconded by Mr. Morris.
Okay,
All right.
if I could, just a little discussion here. Bart, I appreciate your efforts to get this before us soon, given the closing of the calendar year, and I think you did a good job balancing. There's a couple changes that I'd like to make before we go as it relates to the CMAC program. If you turn to Table 5, first of all, I would recommend that under Programs, Project Number 3, Transit Stop Enhancement, that we just take that project out. It doesn't have any funding in it. It's something that we did a long time ago. We don't do it anymore. We actually use 5307 money to do it now, so we're not going to use any CMAC money for that. And then the next one is probably the two most significant changes would be in the title of projects. Given the new MAP 21, CMAC money can be used for some operations, though the law hasn't been written to clarify that. It would be nice if we had some flexibility. So in the title of transit fleet and expansion replacement, I'd like to add the word operations. So it would read transit fleet expansion and operations on that one. And then I have some minor edits I can give to Bart. For example, we don't do 30-foot buses anymore. So there's some minor edits in the text, but I can just allow me, I'll just give those to Bart. They're pretty simple. So let me state my second request, and then maybe we could amend the motion to include both. The second one is under transit centers and facilities. In 2014, there's $1 million. Right now, there's $1 million in 2013, and then $1 million in 2014. The reality is, I don't believe that I could obligate both $1 million in that time frame. And I haven't got very much traction on the 2013, and the reality is I can't obligate the whole $1 million in 14. So I'd recommend that we move that $1 million. My recommendation would be to take 500,000 of it and put it in bus stop, or excuse me, 300,000 of it and put it in bus stop improvements, 200,000 and put it in transit, and take the balance of the 500,000 and put it into the road program, either on pavement replacement or the dowling. Or I think the obligation could be met. So I'll summarize my recommendation. My recommendation would be to amend, or first of all, delete number 3 under programs, amend the title of number 1 under projects to include operations, and reprogram the $1 million in 2013, putting 300,000 in bus stops above it, 200,000 in fleet in one above that, and then the $500,000. And Ken or Dave, I'd look to you guys. I think whether it's best suited in the, maybe even Bart, whether we should put it in pavement replacement program or into dowling. And I mean, pavement replacement's a higher priority, but
Why can't we put it into enhancements?
well, I was thinking about putting in enhancements, and the reason I think Bart, because I asked Bart the same question, I was thinking about 2 things. One, putting it in the area trails rehab, and that could certainly be an option, Cindy, but I think Bart is trying to keep us within our 10% as guided by the policy committee, and putting $1 million in 1 year for the bicycle plan, $1 million for the ped plan, and then $1 million for the trail rehab. In order to
Do we have a range in the 15%?
We do. So,
Point that out.
yeah.
Well, it's just CMAC money is going to go towards improving the air quality, and some of the enhancements, if it's going towards areas where people commute, it's still going towards air quality. And so I have to say that I'd prefer to try to squeeze it into a CMAC project of that type than put it into a road project.
Okay.
So it was originally identified as just,
Well,
but that's just my.
okay.
Can I ask a clarification there, Bart? Bart, do we have a plan for the additional $70 million in funds that we need for dowling?
We're coming up with a plan. We don't know if we're gonna, we're optimistic that we'll be able to come up with some funding. That might be a better question for Ken. I don't know.
Okay.
Okay, well, maybe I guess, since, if I could, Madam Chair, since I don't have a second yet, I think Cindy's got a good point, and so I just have a question for Jerry. Jerry Hansen, if we had the money in the trails rehab area-wide in 14, could you provide a match?
And that's less than 100,000.
It would be about 100,000.
I think we can.
Okay.
If I could.
I'd like to have the opportunity to pursue some curb ramp improvements.
To do what?
Pursue curb ramp improvements. That's an independent project.
Is it a new project?
That would be a new project.
You could work within the pavement replacement
So,
under that deal.
Could work within the pedestrian plan improvements as well, transportation enhancements.
Do you have specific locations for these curb ramps, or is this for a specific road? Just,
It's in the, we
you're
have.
talking about 88.
Yes.
I guess for purposes of putting it out for public review, I'll just summarize, and if I get the votes, I do. If I don't, I don't. Okay, as I mentioned, take the $1 million out of 14, put 300,000 in bus stops, 200,000 in fleet, and then the balance of the 500,000 into table 4 under area-wide trails rehab.
Second.
All right, so moved by Mr. Wilbur, seconded by Ms. Powell. Is there any other,
These things gonna get chewed on so hard.
any clarifications, questions, comments?
On this
Yes.
amendment specifically?
Yes.
Okay, no, I'll hold.
All right, are there any opposed to this? Are we opposing the amendment or?
Correct.
All right. Are there any opposed to the amendment? Mr. Wilbur? All right, hearing none, we are so moved for the amendment. Now we have the original motion.
As amended.
All right, now we're back to the original motion, which was releasing this major amendment number 4 for the 30-day public comment period with the amendment.
Okay.
Ms. Epstein?
Yes, I apologize for getting here late, and maybe the chair could discuss, or just briefly let me know what was the justification for the reductions in the bicycle plan total numbers and the 17 plan total numbers. It sounds like the area-wide trails have gotten addressed just now, so I don't need to know that. Because we went from 1.35 million in 2 years down to 1 million for each of those.
Yeah, when it was set up, it was, TE was 10% over the life of the 4-year life of the TIP. That was based on $36 million a year being funded. Now we're at $25 million a year. So to keep it at the 10%, we were able to reduce some of the TE funding, and rather than do smaller projects, for instance, like these $100,000 projects that we started in 2011 that I have to keep adding money towards, it was thought that maybe if we do some significant $1 million projects every year, we'd be able to get more bang for our federal dollar because there's so much more process. So we maintain the policies and procedures guidelines of having at least 10% for TE while doing these 3 big shots of money in each one of those categories. So that's why it's like that.
But it's, overall, it's a reduced total, which is what I was concerned about, that if you add the 2013 and 2014 together, you get a larger number than the total.
Our whole allocation would be reduced.
Right, so we went from $70 million in 2 years to $50 million, so that's 10%. That goes down, we only.
Did you say it was 10 plus 15? I can't always remember the.
It is, there's a span.
So,
And that's just the minimum too, I mean, that's.
Right, so that's actually, I am concerned about this, given that we underinvested in it for many years. We didn't have any stimulus projects associated with it. And, now we have the plans in place, it's really the time to start implementing. And rather than, I'm fine about doing big projects, but I'm concerned that the overall amounts were reduced.
Right, and that was purely so we could fully fund, well, not even fully fund Dowling, Eagle River Road and the pavement replacement project.
Yeah, that's what I'm.
After you fund those, you know, there's.
Those very expensive projects
Right.
will always overwhelm the small amount that we spend on pedestrian and bike projects. So, and now reducing that small amount even further, it seems to me that that's something that the public would be concerned about. And I wish we had our bike ped advisory committee here to help weigh in on that, so I'm not just a single voice on this committee to raise that. But I would support increasing the amount, and I can propose an amendment to increase the bicycle and pedestrian amount by $350,000 each in years 2013 and 2014, up to the level it would work.
Wouldn't that require an extra reduction in something else?
You'd have to take it from something else, yes.
So would you like to propose?
Well, I am open to those who know more than I do about the specifics of the project for suggestions, but I don't know the best place for that.
You said an increase of,
To the previous amount.
what was the previous amount?
1.35 million over 2013 and 2014. For
So
each of those.
Okay, so instead of the million in the bike plan, it'd be
Mhm.
135, and then that plan would be 135.
Exactly.
And you, I guess, making a movement for that.
Yes. I propose that the bicycle and pedestrian plan project implementation each be increased to 1.35 million in 2013 and 2014. And, you know, if I don't hear good suggestions, I guess I mean, one thought, and I'm not, is to take it from Dowling Road, since that's already underfunded, and this is a small amount reduction, and it needs additional funding anyway.
Is that a motion, Liz?
Yes.
I'll second for purposes of discussion.
So, questions, comments, discussion?
Lois, I think in principle, I would agree with you, but without knowing where we would take it from, without some thought, I think during the review process and then the comments from the bike committee, I think that's a good way to do it. I mean, I do think that over the years, it still needs some attention, and big projects do suck up the little bit of money we have, so I'm not gonna support it now, but I supported it just for the purpose of discussion, because I think it's worthy, but I just don't know where we find $700,000 without more thought. So, there you go.
Well, I guess I would suggest then that it does come from Dowling Road, since that's where the money behind the scenes was taken from, so that at least we have a clear vote that the Dowling Road project is taking the money that would otherwise go to bicycle and pedestrian improvements, and we can have a vote on that.
If I could comment, I likely would go ahead and propose that myself. We are trying to figure out how to go ahead and fund Dowling Road. The additional funds, although we are working towards that effect, an additional $700,000 may seem like a drop in the bucket for a project cost of this size, but we are indeed short. I guess I do want to point out that each of these road projects has significant features to them that are enhancements to bicyclists in particular. For example, the Eagle River Road has a fairly extensive shoulder, and it's a wonderful road to bike on, but it lacks a shoulder. a number of our road projects, frankly, Dowling Road right now is creating a grade separation project that's underway right now. Grade separation of the Campbell Creek Trail, as well as even the Seward Highway project. And similarly, this Dowling Road project and the Eagle River Road project have similar benefits to recreational users and even people that are using bicycles for transportation and such. So not knowing where the funds are, though, is, I think, the linchpin for me that is going to encourage me to vote against your.
Well, we have a movement and a second. Any opposed? Okay, so we'll go to the vote for that amendment. Mr. Remoco, are you for or against that movement?
Remind me what it is. What are we doing? Moving money?
Lois's amendment to move $700,000 into the bicycle plan project implementation and pedestrian project plan implementation and taking that money from the Dowling Road project.
I agree with Lance. Without any substantive suggestions, I'm going to vote no.
Mr. Martin? Mr. Reader?
No.
Ms. Epstein? Yes. Ms. Howe?
No.
Mr. Host? Yes, sorry, I hadn't been better for a second. I do vote, don't I? Let me just check. No. Mr. Wilbur?
Opposed?
Mr. Hanson?
No.
Mr. Morris?
Opposed.
Right, that was 9-4, 9 against, 1-4, sorry. So that amendment. So we still have the original motion before us, which is to release this major amendment to public comment.
With the changes.
With the, as amended by Lance. Are there any opposed to the releasing of this document? Hearing none, we are so moved.
Nice job, Art.
All right, next we are on to the draft grid CO and maintenance plan. Mr. Morris, I was told
Yep.
that.
Let's give you a brief overview. We're also asking the TAC to release this document for public comment. Anchorage is a carbon monoxide maintenance area, and by the Clean Air Act, the EPA establishes a 20-year period, maintenance plan period. Midway through the period, they require communities that are maintenance areas to update their plans. And one of the options they give to carbon monoxide areas that have relatively low CO concentrations that are 15% below standard, they offer the option of a limited maintenance plan. And the advantage of that is the update is much simpler, it's less technical, less rigorous. And perhaps the biggest advantage is that if you qualify for this limited maintenance plan by the virtue of having a lower carbon monoxide concentration, you don't have to have a carbon monoxide motor vehicle emission budget. That's something that's required, that we have in our current plan. We can dispense with that. And the process of going through air quality conformity is much simplified, because that was essentially the whole process is that we had the transportation modelers model the transportation system for the NP3 or the TIP. We had to use a separate model to estimate what the emissions were from that transportation network and determine whether it met the emission budget. There's lots of work, lots of time involved in that. Because we qualify for this limited maintenance plan option, that process has been eliminated, or will be eliminated once the plan is found adequate by the EPA. So, and you'll see that this update itself is only 7 or 8 pages, quite simple. Basically, it demonstrates that we qualify for the limited maintenance plan option by virtue of the monitoring results we've had over the last few years. And then it affirms the fact that nothing really changes in the plan. If we happen to violate the air quality standard in the future, we're still on the hook to implement contingency measures and that sort of thing. So really nothing has changed. Our commitments haven't changed in terms of continuing to do a public awareness program and transit marketing and some of the other things that are current commitments in the plan. So you'll see it's fairly simple. We're asking you just to release it for 30-day public comment. We plan to convene the AMATS Air Quality Advisory Committee to get comments from them on the plan, and hopefully we'll have a meeting in the next couple of weeks with them and get you their comments as well. But with that, I'd ask you to go to staff for their public comment.
Just to add on, the rest of this is a new chapter that will be included in the state implementation plan. It refers back to all the technical information that we've done has already been approved and accepted by EPA, so all that is still there, as Steve mentioned. This has also been very well vetted through EPA and FHWA. And FTA looked at it, they didn't have any comments. So to make sure that we were on the right track and that everything we've done technically was sound, we did have EPA and FHWA review it. And yes, it was Jeff Hope from the Colorado Service Center for FHWA, who's one of the premier experts in this field. Just want to make sure you guys are aware of that.
Any other questions or comments from the committee? Are there any questions or comments from the public? Then it's back to the committee. Do I have a motion?
Move to release this for 30-day public comment period.
Motion by Ms. Howe, seconded by Mr. Coast. Are there any opposed to releasing this for 30-day comment period? Hearing none, we are so moved. Are there any other business items at this time?
I'll throw one out there.
Business item?
Yeah, okay. I was, not quite sure what the best way to do this is, but how can the committee, to a motion or a direction to formally request or require timeline for the next TIP development, TIP amendment, and the next LRTP, or NTP update? Because those are all coming together over the next couple of years. It's going to be very busy, and we have the Unified Work Program is going to be coming up. I don't know how we're going to really look at that, a two-year program, without having a little defined timeline of our expectations over the next 20 years. So, so I'm not sure what's the best way to do it. Says, I move that we want one, and let's have one by next meeting. You know, or, I mean, I don't know what the best way to do it, but we need these. And I've brought it up forever, and I'm tired, I mean, really seriously, tired of it and want it. So moved to have timelines for the three major things that are on our NTP, the next TIP, new TIP, and this major thing is going through now, a timeline for this major, all three.
Do we have a motion?
I'll second it.
She did. She changed it from DPW to
Cindy, maybe you can repeat your motion.
Okay, I'd like to propose a direction or that the AMATS staff provide by next meeting, a timeline for major amendment number 4 with schedule, a timeline with a tentative schedule for the next TIP, 2014.
It'll be 15.
Which one?
The next tip
Yeah.
is 2015,
Okay, from what?
4
to what?
years. 15, 16, 17, 18.
Okay, 15 to the 18,
I can do
and
that.
a timeline with tentative schedule of next MTP update.
Originally, you mentioned WP.
Right, I know it's coming, but I reference that in the sense that these timelines are gonna be key elements to figure out what is going into the UPWP. So if we're gonna get a UPWP here in the next couple months to look at, but we don't have the references of the work that's gonna be happening over the next 2 years, how do we make good decisions on that planning effort?
And
Is
if
that
I,
better?
I just wanted to clarify, that you were asking for, like, the remaining timeline for the current TIP amendment that's?
Yes.
not- Okay, that's, I just, for
Yes,
the minutes, thank you.
because right now we really don't. I mean,
We're
it's
working
going out for
it's-
public comment, but we don't, I mean, the thing about it is that when is the hearings are gonna be set?
How does that fall?
Right, I
follow?
mean, right. The last tip of major amendment languished for months.
I'm just clarifying. that
Major amendment number
there
3.
was another amendment out there, so
Just
just
through
double
March
check.
and it didn't happen until spring, I guess. That's, I would like to have a plan.
Well, we have the motion. Wait here a second.
I second.
Oh, you seconded it, Mr. Wilbur seconded it? Great. Is there any discussion?
Good idea. Thank you.
I guess I have a question for staff, in the sense that by next meeting, our next TAC meeting is October 13th. Is that adequate, put together the timeline for those 3 different things?
That's really a question for Craig, but I can tell you that Craig and I have sat down and we've kind of hashed out a schedule for the next tip, so he should have that, and it shouldn't be a big deal to do this by the next meeting.
Okay. That's just- All right, other, I guess we've had our discussion. That means we have to, any other questions or comments from the committee? All right, are there any questions or comments from the public on the motion? No? All right, now it's back with us. Are there any opposed to the motion? Hearing none, we are so moved. Thank you. All right, then is there any other business? No? Okay, then we're going to move on to item 6, informational reports. And the first is 6A, status of the MOA projects. Mr. Hanson, this is you?
I guess so.
All right.
I promised it a couple of meetings ago that at CR that forgot that. With Craig. And what the request had been is to provide some information about the type of funding, projects and the funding that we received in 2012. And on this sheet right here, everybody's got that, listed the funding that we received. The top portion of the sheet is labeled state grants. We received from the legislature we just received it, it's been delayed this year, about $107 million out of our request, and this is for roads and drainage, and out of a request of about $250 million. And a lot of, I'm going to say, as much as a third of these were not requested by the municipality in our legislative requests that were put in by legislatures. Some of these projects are already underway. The top 6, if you look at them, is ARTSA Senate residential pavement rehab for JKLNO, and that's within the ARTSA service area. We have projects out there right now. These were to go out and really do some quick pavement fixes. We've gone into specific areas and doing pavement reclaiming, go in and more where we don't have to rebuild the roads, we don't have to fix storm drains, maybe some curb and gutters. Some of these are strip paved roads that have exceeded well past their useful life. Go and chew up the top 6 inches, maybe some spot redigs, lay that back down, and then put 2 inches of asphalt over that. And a lot of these areas are already starting. A good example is off of Wisconsin, Wiley Post and some of those streets in there. We haven't got started on Turpin yet. We've got some roads over there, but so we're going ahead with that. I'm just looking down at Cherry Street upgrade for 36 to 32nd to 36. It's already under contract. It won't be done until next year. You know, just a lot of these projects, we just got the money now. Some of them were unknown. We put out some RFPs to get consultants on board and start designing them. I will note one project, Lake Otis, from DeBar to Northern Lights. We got very little seed money in it, and it's gonna have a lot of issues, previous recommendations, buy out a whole row of houses. You know, it's gonna be range $20 to $40 million. That's probably not gonna happen right now, unless we get further funding. So, that's the list of the grant funding that we received. The table below road bonds, these were listed in the 2012 road bond that was passed by the voters in ARTSA this fall, and some of these are underway and going to be, and some of them will be bid here very shortly. 35th and McRae, we've had some more funds to it, and that's going to be put out for bid probably this fall. We're in the right-of-way acquisition phase right now. Arlene Pelican Drive, Kingfisher, this is under construction right now. We'll get about half of that done. And let's see, the rest of these are kind of, you know, just generic titles that we can use just about any place in the project within the municipality. So,
That might be interesting.
except your paint stripe, you can't take that, remember? And let's see, there's, yeah, I guess that was the only one for equipment, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Ski camp. Wasn't any equipment there, so. That's the list. We've got, you know, it totals up to about $134 million that we got in 2012. And we're trying to get them out as fast as possible. We're hoping that these top 6 of the pavement rehab, it's going to be a continuing project. We have a lot of roads in this town where the asphalt's been in place for a long time. It's frost heaves have taken over, but it's traffic over. And, you know, it slows the people down.
Maybe.
So, but we're trying to get our inventory, condition inventory up from bad. We hope this will be a reoccurring program of the legislature.
Are there any questions or comments from the committee?
Just a question, and you probably answered this already, Jerry. I saw that Penland Parkway rehab is on both lists.
We got both,
Right,
and we are gonna put it out to bid probably this fall or early spring, the intention to construct that next year.
And that's gonna take $8 million to do that. Because I know that's
It's fine. There's
a
also-
pretty ugly stretch of road.
It's pretty ugly, and we got a major storm drain
Yeah.
that North Fork of Chester Creek goes through there,
Yeah.
and the storm drain is in pretty bad shape. We relocating
If
it.
you've ever gone through.
Plus,
it,
we're
there's
adding
one
a pathway or what, sidewalk?
We're improving, the pet facilities on both sides are very narrow or underserved, and so we're widening the pet facility on
North side and
North
adding
side.
one on the south side. There is none on the south side.
No, there's pets on both.
And for a good portion, that was one of our problems we had, was there was not a pet facility on one side. One of the things that we're doing is adding.
Well, one's being widened to 8, and the other one that's 4,
Yeah.
but we're making sure that we're adequate in the space, so there will be pets on both sides. And we're also improving some of the bus facilities along there as well.
I just had one more question. The Diamond Boulevard upgrade, Jopper to Sand Lake Road, what's that involved doing?
Well, right now, it's a strip paved road.
Yeah.
It doesn't meet the current standards, and we will be putting out a design study report. We did have some funding before and had a consultant on board to do the concept report, but it just, because of lack of funding, it wasn't there. The intent, I think we're about half funded on this. Hopefully we'll get the rest of the funding for, in the next few legislative sessions, but probably won't need it next year, but probably the year after that, we'll be ready for construction or close to it.
Thanks.
Any other questions or comments from the committee? Any questions or comments from the public? Thank you, Jared. Appreciate it. Are there any other committee comments at this time? Or is it good order?
We do have a public transit advisory board meeting beginning at 5:30 at City Hall. For those of you who are eager to learn about transit. Come on down. We're going to have a presentation from our bus site enhancement crew, their winter and summer challenges and some of the things they have presenting to the board. Some of the pictures aren't meant for children, so we blur the faces out to hide the innocence. So
Guilty.
You said at City Hall?
City Hall, 5:30.
Where?
Assembly Conference.
Anything else?
We received today notification from FHWA that kind of consistent with the need to be prepared for when MAP 21 takes effect October 1st. We were asked to confirm the classification of our principal arterial routes. I think we're supposed to go ahead and provide that. Confirm its recommendation by September 20th. So we might want to go ahead and coordinate with personnel on that. But the implication is that in MAP 21, principal arterials actually rise to the level, presumably, of the national highway system. And so it's a significant change that we want to go ahead and, before it takes effect, review those classifications and see if there's any amendments that we want to go ahead and do to that before it takes effect.
Any schedule meeting?
Yeah, I did a preliminary scan this morning, and there are 4 roads that are different from the state's functional classification system and the OSNHP. But I did have a question, and I don't know, since Craig's not here, is the status of the OSHP that has not been adopted yet. We were waiting until after the MTP. I didn't know how close we were to that, to make sure I was using the correct maps.
I will have to check with Craig.
Okay.
The staff member who was working on the official streets and highways plan has accepted another position, and so I know that it's kind of been on hold. So when Craig gets back, we'll have to touch base with him, and hopefully we can clarify that, so I'll get together with Craig.
Sounds good.
Yeah. Okay. Anything else?
I have a question for staff. I'm just wondering what the update is about the, I don't know if we can get the answer without Craig here, but the Bike and Pedestrian Advisory Committee.
I think it's the same answer, because the person who was heading that up is now on to a new position, so
Yes.
I don't know what the status of that is.
And through the chair, we've lost that position. We won't be able to fill that position now. So we are lower staff.
Okay. So does that mean that someone else will have to take on those responsibilities?
We're going to be extremely busy. And I honestly don't know. We have to talk about that. We just learned about this. So we have 2 people now doing everything.
Lots of things to share, Any other scary comments before we close? All right, our 2 weeks from today, the policy committee will meet. It's the day after my 31st birthday. I don't know if I'll be going. And the technical advisory committee will meet next month, October 13th.
11.
Is it 11?
I think it's 11. 13's a Saturday, if memory serves.
Let's start with your name. There's is very true, because this is September 13th, so it's actually October 11th.
I won't be there on the 13th.
Yeah,
Happy
I
to
won't be
come
there
on
for
the
the
11th.
13th either. Okay, so October 11th is the next time we will be meeting. The 27th is correct. Our birthday's on Wednesday.
All right, Stephanie, write down what you want.
That'll be prominently bolded in the minutes.
I like it.
All right, and we will adjourn at 3:31 p.m.